Hello everyone, I'm Maya Bentwich. Today is February 9th, 2025. It is now 492 days that Israeli hostages are being held in Hamas's terror dungeons in Gaza. This is the live daily briefing of the Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's Office. Please start sending your questions in the chat and I'll answer what I can at the end. The only people starving in Gaza are the hostages being held by Hamas. Hamas released 3 hostages over the weekend in exchange for over 100 terrorists. The hostages were emaciated. Israel's foreign minister said the hostages look like Holocaust survivors. And to be honest with you, they do. Israel's health ministry said the hostages were malnourished and lost around 30% of their body weight, testament to the hell that they went through. Medical staff said their condition of the hostages returning from captivity is comparable to that of the individuals who have spent a year in a concentration camp. This is a medical emergency, not a moment for celebration. Their condition is severe and deeply concerning. They are suffering from malnutrition, muscle atrophy, prolonged infections, and more. If you believe you would have stood up against this evil, then now is your chance. Since Hamas declared war on October 7th, we keep hearing claims of Gazan hunger. But the fake famine lies where debunked time again and again. Gazans got 3,000 calories per person, more than the people in the UK. The Gazans and Hamas terrorists celebrating look healthy and even obese. That is no accident. Hamas accuses Israel of starving Gazans while Hamas starves Israelis. Hamas accuses Israel of raping Gazans while Hamas rapes Israelis. Hamas accuses Israel of murdering Gazan children while Hamas murders Israelis' children. Hamas accuses Israel of doing what Hamas actually does. Hamas is committed to destroying Israel and committing genocide against our people. Hamas must not have any future in Gaza. Otherwise, rebuilding Gaza will mean rebuilding Hamas's ability to starve, rape, and murder again. Governments that call Hamas to release hostages should stop funding Hamas via UNRWA. The British Prime Minister said he shared relief at Eli Sharabi's release, but was dismayed to see his frail condition. Eli Sharabi was one of the 3 emaciated hostages traded for terrorists after 491 days. Sharabi's British family were brutally murdered by Hamas monsters on October 7th. His wife, Liane, and daughters, Noya, 16, and Yahel, 13, Zichronam Livracha, were murdered in their homes, found holding one another, riddled with bullets. In a display of their true evil, Hamas forced Eli to speak at his terror circus, and he said, "I am so happy to return to my wife and daughters." Hamas laughed. They knew all 3 had been murdered on October 7th, and that his brother had been in captivity. His first question upon being reunited with his mother and sister was, "Where are they?" They were forced to tell him the devastating news. Prime Minister Starmer was silent until now about the murder of his British family. Worst, Starmer's UK government just committed 17 million to Gaza, including for UNRWA. Starmer's UK government is proud that this year they gave 41 million to UNRWA. Italy, Sweden, Netherlands, US, and soon Switzerland instead stopped funding UNRWA. These governments know that funding UNRWA means funding UNRWA's Hamas accomplices. The UK government and others must decide: free Hamas hostages today or fund Hamas hostage-taking tomorrow. Now let's take some questions from our audience watching live on social media.
Thank you, Maya. Our first question comes from Instagram. Do we know anything about the emotional conditions of the returning hostages?
Well, what I can share with you is that Eli Sharabi, for example, as I just mentioned, returns to Israel with no immediate family to greet him. His wife and daughters were murdered on October 7th in their home, and his brother, who was kidnapped with him, was killed in captivity. Or Levi, for example, returned to learn that his wife was also killed by Hamas, leaving their now 3-year-old son orphaned. Ohad Ben Ami's wife was kidnapped and later released in the first hostage deal. You can understand what I mean by saying all this. Their mental condition as well as their physical condition is extremely complicated, and we're working to make sure that their recuperation is as best as can be. But this situation is far from ideal, and we need to make sure that all our hostages come back home as soon as possible.
Thank you. Our next question comes from X. Can you speak about your personal experience in the kibbutzim and your understanding of the hostages in that sense?
Of course. So, as some of you may know, I spent approximately 6 months right after the October 7th massacre in the devastated kibbutzim. And I can share from firsthand experience that I've seen the atrocities that Hamas did in the kibbutzim firsthand, that I've heard the testimonies firsthand. And to see, just like Eli Sharabi, I know his house, I've seen his house right after October 7th, I've heard what happened there, unfortunately. This is how this war started. This is Hamas's true face. This is evil. And it is now your time to choose if you stand with this evil or if you stand for justice, if you stand for morality.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Esther on Instagram. Why does Israel release terrorists and not give them the death penalty? Support them.
That is a great question. Well, this is far from an ideal deal, as we've spoken about many times before here at the Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's office. This is a ransom deal. Hamas took our babies, our kids, our women, our elderly, our men, and have held them hostage. And in return, we have to pay a very expensive price. But we need to get our people back. Because as we just saw yesterday, last Saturday, the hostages that returned in such unimaginable conditions and have gone through literally hell in Hamas's terror dungeons, and we need to bring them back home. So this is an impossible situation. We're doing the best, and we just hope to see all our hostages back home as soon as we can, and to make sure that the second phase of this deal is going into motion and into action, so that once again all our hostages are back home now.
Thank you. This is our final question from Instagram. Do you have any hope after seeing these hostages released? And what gives you hope that we are rising from the ashes in this war?
That is also a great question. I like to try and believe and wake up in the morning with a sense of hope, despite all the bad and evil that currently surrounds us, because I believe that there is hope. But I believe that there is hope when we are united. I believe that there is hope when we see great allies, when people stand for morality and choose to stand on the right side of history. I believe that there is hope when I see the hostages' family reunited, and I see the hostages that even after they've gone through this hell, they still have hope and love in their hearts and are happy, so happy to be reunited with their families. So yes, there is hope, but we also have to be constantly proactive to make sure that we fight this war of misinformation and that our hostages are back home. As some of you may know, we're currently releasing a mini-series, which is called actually Rising from the Ashes, which brings that sentiment of hope, I hope, into our lives. So I invite you all to watch it on our channels, on our Instagram, and more to come. But that is all that we have time for today. And thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Israel time, 8 a.m. EST. Thank you for watching.